Joined by former Canucks coach Bruce Boudreau. Bruce, you know these players really, really well. Tocchet wouldn't be specific, but he did call out a group of his guys saying there were at least a half dozen passengers last game. Who do you think he was referring to most when he said passengers?
Well, I mean, good coaches don't a lot of times don't call out names, but the players know who they are. And I think one of the guys that for sure knows who it is, and he's been getting a lot of heat, is Elias Pettersson. I mean, here's a guy that gets 100 points every year, it seems, and is a great hockey player. And he's got one goal in this playoffs. And I think, they're getting great contributions from the third line, a lot of times from the first line. But his line has got to be contributing more. And that's why I think the Canucks, quite frankly, are only scoring 2 goals a game and really struggling on it unless they're on the power play. So Elias Pettersson is the number one guy I think that they've got to get going, or he's got to get going. But in his defense, I will say this. He's playing with Mikheyev, and they put a whole bunch of different guys on his other side. Mikheyev has scored 1 goal in 60 games. So, I mean, he's got to get better. The other guy I think that you could really challenge, and I challenged him a lot right to his face, and he really responds, and I would be shocked if he doesn't respond next game, is probably a little bit of JT Miller, who only played 19 minutes, which is not as much for him as normal. But, I mean, he's the kind of guy you can challenge, and he says, oh, yeah, I'll show you. So I expect JT to be his best game of the series next game.
That's awesome. Well, Tocchet also said he's going to start babysitting some guys a little bit more. When it comes to a player like Pettersson, what's the best approach to get someone like him going?
Well, everybody's got a different approach. I was talking to somebody today, and you know what? Everybody's got a different trigger point. And it's up to us as coaches to find out what that trigger point is. In other words, sometimes they need a kick in the butt. Sometimes they need a challenge. Sometimes, you got to take the guy and just grab him by the arms and say, hey, listen, I need more from you. And I think, like when I was doing it with him, that was the thing. He wants responsibility. And it's really tough for a coach when the guy's not playing that well to say you want to give him more responsibility. But I think Elias would welcome that, quite frankly. And he wants to be the best. From what I know of him, he wants to be the best every time he steps on the ice, wants the biggest challenge. It's just that when he's not getting it, he doesn't feel sometimes as useful as he'd like to be. But that's how I would handle him. I'd ask him what his thoughts were. I said, okay, I'm going to give you this challenge tonight. You got to be the best at it and see how he does.
Tocchet wasn't the only coach stealing headlines last night. Paul Maurice was patting himself on the back for how good he says he is at swearing at his players, while Jim Montgomery was playing charades on the Bruins bench. Which coach gets your best performance of the night award?
Well, you know what? I'm going to give it to Jim Montgomery for one reason, is because we've seen that with Paul before. He did it in Toronto and it got them going and almost won them the cup last year. This one, it only lasted for a period and a half before they lost the lead. But, I mean, he doesn't get often mad too often, but when you see it, you see it. But with Montgomery, when he started doing the dive type of thing to the referees, I think he wanted them to take notice. The problem with that is he probably got a call and a warning from league office today, because that's happened to me before, and I didn't wake up early enough the next day before that phone call was right there and saying, Bruce, don't do that anymore. Don't embarrass our referees or it's going to cost you. So I think that'll be done by Jim, or be finished by Jim. But, he made a good point, and I think the referees got the idea when he did it.
On a personal note, I know all too well how rough it can be when you get called out publicly by your coach.
And you, what the are you still doing there? Have you not got a chair yet? Have you moved? It's the same thing as I saw last year. Get the Won't somebody please get this guy a chair? Here.
That's fabulous, yeah.